Some betrayals don't begin with screams. They begin with a smile over tea, a compliment too perfect, a gift with a knife hidden inside. Have you ever stepped into a room and felt unwanted, not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't? Have you ever tried to prove yourself in a world where you were already marked as a mistake? Sarah Lindell didn't marry into wealth. She married a man who used to laugh with her in line at the bagel cart. But that man's last name came with a cost, and the woman who carried it before him was willing to pay any price, as long as Sarah lost everything. If you've ever faced someone who smiled while setting you up to fail, keep watching. This story is for you. The air inside the Marklin estate didn't welcome her. It judged her. Sarah stood just past the threshold, clutching her handbag too tight. She'd worn a pale blue blouse, soft makeup, a pair of pumps that pinched slightly at the toes. Nothing flashy, nothing threatening, just enough to look like she belonged in a place built by old money and older pride. The hallway stretched out before her like a challenge. Cream walls, dark oak accents, a scent of jasmine and polish in the air. A framed oil painting of Corbin as a child greeted her with eyes she'd memorized, though somehow here they looked colder. Vivian Marklin appeared at the top of the grand staircase. She didn't walk down like a woman greeting her son's wife. She descended like royalty returning to her court. Slim frame, ash blonde hair pinned immaculately, and a silk scarf tied around her neck. Vivian never raised her voice. She didn't need to. Her presence had the force of quiet storms, the kind that rearranged everything without breaking a single window. "You're early," Vivian said, gliding down. "I admire punctuality." Her smile was precise. Her tone, neutral. Sarah smiled back, careful, soft. "Thank you for having me." "I didn't," Vivian replied lightly, then gestured toward the sitting room. But Corbin insisted. The sitting room was everything Sarah expected. White couches, gold trim, marble fireplace, glass coffee table with a fresh orchid in the center. Nothing out of place, nothing welcoming either. A maid entered with tea and biscuits arranged on fine china. Vivian poured 2 cups. No offer of sugar, no milk. Sarah accepted hers with both hands, aware of how steady she had to keep them. "You've been married 6 weeks, Vivian began, taking a sip. "How are you adjusting to the name?" Sarah blinked. "I still forget to sign it sometimes. It's a bit surreal." "Yes. I imagine it is." Vivian set down her cup. "Marklin is an old name. Heavy, if you don't have the shoulders for it." It wasn't a question. Sarah nodded, smile still intact. "Corbin's shoulders seem strong enough for both of us." Vivian tilted her head slightly, a gesture that was either amused or irritated. "I see you have charm. I run a flower shop." "It helps." The pause between them was filled with a distant ticking of a grandfather clock in the hallway. Vivian leaned in. "I do hope Corbin has made you sign a prenup." That afternoon, Corbin arrived late, fresh from a board meeting, shirt sleeves rolled, no tie, laptop still buzzing in his bag. He greeted Sarah with a kiss on the temple and his mother with a polite nod. The tension didn't ease. Sarah watched them speak, one Marklin to another. It was like watching code being exchanged. Silent cues, double meanings, rehearsed civility. She wasn't meant to understand it. That was the point. Vivian handed Corbin a small envelope on his way out. "For the 2 of you. Just something small." Inside was a pair of spa vouchers and a flyer for a luxury fertility center. Sarah tucked it into her purse without a word. Back at their apartment, Corbin made dinner, pasta and garlic bread, while Sarah fed their cat and answered boutique emails. He hadn't noticed the envelope until it slipped from her bag. "Sarah," he muttered. "She means well. This is just how she is." "I know," Sarah replied, rinsing plates. He turned to her. "You sure you're okay?" She dried her hands slowly. "I married you, not her. That's what I keep reminding myself." He hugged her from behind, kissed her neck. "I'd marry you 1,000 times over." She smiled. But somewhere deep inside, something braced itself. It came 3 weeks later. Her boutique lease renewal, which should have been automatic, was suddenly declined. The landlord didn't return her calls. The building management stopped answering her emails. Corbin made calls, said he'd handle it. It was a fluke, he insisted, a glitch in the system. Sarah said nothing. But that night, when she passed by Vivian's social profile, she noticed a new tag, a real estate developer. The same company her boutique building fell under. She didn't bring it up, not then. Sarah began keeping notes, supplier names, missed deliveries, inspection notices. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud. But the pattern was clear. She hadn't entered a home, she'd entered a chessboard. And every piece Vivian moved came with velvet gloves. But Sarah wasn't panicking. She'd spent her life building things from the ground up, and she wasn't about to let someone with a title and a matching scarf break what she built, no matter how long the smile stayed on her face. If you've ever had to fight back without raising your voice, if you've ever stood alone, knowing someone wanted you gone without ever saying it out loud, stay with this story. What comes next will test everything Sarah thought she could quietly endure. Comment if you've ever seen a silent war disguised as family care. And don't forget, subscribe so you don't miss what this millionaire mother does next. Vivian didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't need to slam doors or whisper threats. She only needed to pause just long enough before saying Sarah's name, only needed to ask if she was managing okay with Corbin's schedule, or mention how charming Sarah's neighborhood must be. Sarah understood the language. She had grown up watching women with less say more. But this wasn't about understanding. It was about surviving a silent war. She kept her mornings structured. Open the shop at 7:30. Check inventory. Sort orders by zip code. Return calls to brides and funeral homes. Smile, even when she didn't feel like it. One morning, her supplier's usual delivery didn't arrive. No warning. No explanation. The driver she'd known for 3 years had been reassigned. She called the company. After 15 minutes on hold, someone said her account had been suspended due to a policy re-evaluation. That afternoon, a new vendor emailed her, offering to take over the flower supply. The address in the signature, a corporate office 2 buildings down from one of Vivian's charity foundations. Sarah didn't flinch. She forwarded the email to herself and saved it in a folder she quietly labeled Interference. Corbin noticed she wasn't sleeping well. He offered vacations, staycations, extra help. She thanked him, kissed him goodnight, told him everything was fine. It wasn't a lie. She was fine, just not untouched. Vivian wasn't trying to ruin her all at once. She was unraveling her in pieces. 1,000 paper cuts, but Sarah had lived through worse. She had been forgotten before, talked over, shut out. She had been a girl whose father left before she learned cursive, whose mother worked 2 jobs and still couldn't afford school pictures. She'd learned to make things beautiful because life didn't hand her anything that was. The city inspector showed up a week later. Clipboard, name badge, stern expression, walked through her shop like it was a crime scene, pointed at ceiling tiles, jotted notes about exit path obstructions. She smiled politely, offered bottled water. When he left, she asked for a copy of the report. He blinked, hesitated, then muttered something about it being under internal review. She watched him leave and locked the door behind him. Then she turned to the bouquet of freesia in the corner and quietly started pulling off the bruised petals, one by one. Corbin tried to make sense of it. Maybe someone complained about the sidewalk displays. Maybe, she answered, folding the inspection note into a drawer. He touched her arm. You tell me if something bigger was going on, right? She looked him in the eye. Not if I thought it would cost you your mother. He froze. He didn't ask what she meant. She didn't explain. They both left it right there, hanging between love and loyalty. 2 nights later, Sarah received an anonymous email. The subject line, "Your store's finances are suspicious." No sender name, no signature. Just a short message claiming she'd been taking from the till and that authorities would be notified. She knew it wasn't real. She checked the email headers, traced it through a cloaked address that routed through a known burner domain. But the intent was clear. This wasn't just sabotage. Someone wanted her gone and was getting impatient. She printed the email, placed it in her interference folder. She made no phone calls. She told no one. But she added a password lock to her store computer. She ran a financial audit of the last 6 months. She emailed her accountant with a backup of the logs. And then, she baked banana bread, took it to her assistant the next morning, smiled at every customer. If she was going down, it wasn't going to be quietly, not like Vivian wanted. Vivian, meanwhile, smiled for photos at charity events, spoke at galas about strengthening community for women, posted soft focus images of tea sets and silk gloves. Her captions, "Elegance is the quietest form of power." Sarah saw every one of them. She didn't double tap. She didn't block. She watched. Because knowing your enemy was never optional, especially when your enemy was your husband's mother. Corbin was starting to notice things. The way Sarah double-checked the mail before he touched it. The way she hesitated before logging into her shop's payment system. The way she flinched when the phone rang from an unknown number. One night, while she dozed on the couch, he looked through her interference folder. He saw the email, the vendor switch, the real estate listing tied to his mother's contacts. When she woke, she found him sitting at the kitchen table, the printed pages laid out like puzzle pieces. "You knew," he said. She didn't pretend. "I didn't want you to have to choose," she said softly. "Between me and her." He didn't speak for a while. She waited. Finally, he said, "What if she doesn't stop?" Sarah folded her hands. "Then I won't either." They didn't hug, didn't cry. They just sat there in quiet agreement that whatever this was, they weren't running. The next day, Vivian sent a handwritten note. No envelope, no card, just one folded page delivered through a courier. "Sarah, you must understand the responsibilities that come with our name. You weren't chosen by the family. You were chosen by the heart. Those aren't always the same thing. I trust you'll do what's best for everyone." Sarah burned it. She didn't confront her. Not in person. Not in text. Not through Corbin. Because Vivian didn't deserve her words. She deserved the one thing she couldn't control. Sarah's silence. And her endurance. But Vivian wasn't done yet. And the next move she made would cost her the one ally she thought she could always count on. Vivian Markland didn't believe in loud scandals. She believed in paperwork, in well-timed whispers, in ruining someone without ever being blamed for it. She had built her image for decades, the flawless host, the refined donor, the woman, who still sent handwritten thank you notes even after leaving a dinner early. But under the pearls and linen, Vivian operated with precision. She didn't like Sarah. Not because Sarah was loud or disrespectful. She wasn't. Not because she had bad manners. She didn't. She simply didn't fit. And Vivian didn't tolerate things that didn't fit. The first time she saw Corbin with Sarah was at a private fundraiser in Soho. Vivian had been seated with a senator's wife and the owner of a major art publication. Corbin walked in, no warning, no escort, and introduced my girlfriend, Sarah Lindell. Sarah wore a navy blue dress. Her shoes were simple. Her handshake was warm. She didn't try to impress. She didn't act intimidated. Vivian knew right away. This girl wouldn't be easy to mold. And that made her dangerous. She didn't make a scene. She welcomed Sarah politely, offered her wine, even complimented her dress. But when the night ended, she sent a note to Corbin's assistant, "Cancel Sunday brunch. I don't break bread with strangers." Vivian had always shaped her son's future, subtly. The friends, the schools, the interviews, the business connections. And when he started dating a gallery assistant back in college, Vivian made one phone call to the assistant's boss. The girl was offered a job out of state. She left without saying goodbye. She thought Sarah would be just as easy. She was wrong. After Corbin and Sarah eloped, Vivian gave it a month. 2 at most. But 6 months in, they were still together, still solid. And that's when Vivian decided to start over, not with screaming, with strategy. She didn't bribe anyone. She called in favors, small ones, quiet ones, enough to create inconvenience, not suspicion. First, she had a city planning board delay the waste pickup permit near Sarah's store. Trash overflowed for a week. The foot traffic dropped. Then she sent a friend to inquire about buying out the space, offered double rent. The landlord said no, but started watching Sarah more closely. It was small, subtle, but the pressure added up. And Vivian was patient. She would keep turning the screws until the girl broke. The problem was, Sarah didn't break. She adapted. One afternoon, Vivian called her old contact at a floral distribution company, one she'd once helped avoid a lawsuit by making a settlement vanish. She asked for a favor. Cut service to Lindell Floral, she said, just for a while. Say it's a compliance audit. She didn't offer a reason, didn't need to. Within days, the deliveries stopped. Vivian sipped her tea in peace, waiting to hear about a failed business. Instead, Sarah sourced from smaller vendors, more work, less profit, but the shop stayed open. Corbin started asking questions. Vivian deflected them with grace. She told him it was stress, that maybe Sarah wasn't handling the business side well, that new marriages were hard, especially when ambitions don't align. Corbin didn't argue, but he didn't agree either. He stopped answering her calls as quickly, stopped attending her Sunday dinners. And that's when Vivian decided to escalate. She didn't want a fight. She wanted Sarah discredited, ruined with dignity, the kind of scandal no one speaks of directly, but everyone knows. And for that, she needed a professional. Lazarus Cove came highly recommended. Private investigator, silent operator, no media leaks, no trails. She met him at a rooftop bar in Midtown, neutral ground. He wore a charcoal jacket and barely spoke beyond business. I need to know everything, she said. About my son's wife. He blinked once. Cheating, drugs, theft, any of it, all of it. He didn't blink the second time. Why? Vivian sipped her wine. Because she doesn't belong, and I don't wait for problems to expose themselves. I remove them. She offered him the first half of the fee in a sealed envelope. The rest would come when he delivered something usable in court. I want her gone, she said simply. With no mess, he took the envelope without a word. She didn't think about him again. She simply resumed her life. Lunches, committees, society dinners. She pictured Lazarus in a car somewhere, snapping photos of Sarah in the arms of another man, leaving some shady warehouse, arguing over money. She pictured it unraveling quickly. Corbin seeing the truth, divorce, distance, restoration, her world returning to its proper shape. But she made a miscalculation. She hired a man who'd seen too much of people. And for the first time, Vivian Markland's precision was about to backfire. 1 week after hiring Lazarus, she received a message. Target is consistent. No red flags yet. Continuing surveillance. She waited. Another week passed. No significant activity. May need more time. Another week. She may be cleaner than expected. Still reviewing patterns. Vivian sent back one line. I'm paying you for results, not excuses. Lazarus didn't reply. And she didn't notice that was the first time anyone ever ignored her. One morning, she drove past Sarah's shop in disguise. Low cap, dark sunglasses. She wanted to see the woman with her own eyes. She parked across the street and watched. Sarah was helping an older woman with an arrangement, holding her elbow gently, smiling, wrapping the stems in a ribbon. She didn't look like a fraud. She looked like someone who belonged right where she was. Vivian stared longer than she meant to, then pulled away. That evening, she received a small envelope in her mailbox. No return address, no stamps. Inside, a typed report. Photos, receipts, handwritten logs. It looked professional, clean, but when she read it, her face went still. There was nothing. No cheating, no partying, no drugs, no theft, only timestamps of Sarah donating to shelters, texting her husband, working long shifts. At the end, a short message, no useful findings, no further action. Vivian gripped the paper. She picked up her phone. Typed, "You missed something. She's hiding it better." She paused, deleted it, then typed instead, "You're done," and pressed send. She didn't know. The real report wasn't sent to her. It was headed for someone else entirely, and when Corbin read it, everything Vivian built would start to collapse. Corbin Markland hadn't always noticed the way his mother could speak in riddles. He grew up thinking that silence meant elegance. That sharpness wrapped in softness was the same as love. Vivian had raised him to listen more than speak, to never be caught off guard, to never show too much emotion in public. It wasn't until Sarah came into his life that he realized he'd grown up knowing how to control a room, but not how to trust one. With Sarah, everything was clear. Her voice, her touch, her loyalty, none of it required decoding. But now, sitting at his desk with the envelope from Lazaran Cove in front of him, Corbin realized how much he had missed. The report had no cover letter, no threats, no preamble, just documentation, photos, timestamps, receipts, voice logs, all neatly filed, and all of it pointing at his mother. The surveillance wasn't on Sarah. It was about what was happening around her. Interference, manipulation, silent sabotage, and it started long before the wedding. He flipped through one page at a time. A shell email account linked to Vivian's PR firm. Real estate records connecting her to a landlord of a neighboring property. An anonymous report to the city inspector's office. Then came the email accusing Sarah of theft. The IP trail linked back to a server that had previously routed communications for Vivian's old campaign donation site. It wasn't subtle. It was surgical. Corbin sat still. His chest felt tight. He thought about the look in Sarah's eyes lately. The quiet, the way she smiled with the corners of her mouth but not her eyes, the way she paused before answering questions, not to lie, but to soften the blow. He thought about the times she asked, "How's your mother doing?" instead of saying what she already knew. That night, he didn't bring it up. Not yet. Sarah was on the couch, legs curled under a blanket, watching an old black and white film. She held a mug of tea in both hands like it was something sacred. He sat beside her, didn't speak. Halfway through the movie, she leaned her head on his shoulder. "I love you," she whispered. He turned and kissed the top of her head and held her just a little tighter than usual. The next morning, Corbin drove to the family estate. Alone, Vivian was in the conservatory, pruning orchids. She looked up and smiled as if nothing had changed. Corbin, what a surprise. He didn't return the smile. She studied him for a moment. What's wrong? He took the envelope from his coat and placed it gently on the glass table. She stared at it, then at him. What is this? Read it. She didn't move. I said read it. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unfolded the first page. She didn't make it past the third. She set the papers down very slowly, then looked at her son. Who gave you this? You don't need to know. Is she behind this? No, Corbin said coldly. She didn't even know I'd seen it. Vivian's jaw tightened. I was protecting you. No, he replied, voice low. You were controlling me. I was protecting the family name. I am the family. Silence. He took a step closer. She never asked for anything. She never used my name. She didn't try to become anyone else. You tried to destroy her because you couldn't bend her. Vivian's mouth opened slightly, but no words came. Corbin's gaze was clear. I'm leaving, and we're done. Corbin, if you ever come near her again, if I so much as hear your name near her business, I'll press charges. Vivian swallowed hard. You wouldn't. I will, he said, and you know it. He didn't slam the door on his way out. He walked, slowly, calmly, because when truth finally arrives, it doesn't need to shout. He arrived home after dark. Sarah was in the kitchen, humming softly as she chopped vegetables. Dinner was halfway done. The smell of garlic filled the air. He watched her for a second from the doorway. She turned, not startled, not suspicious, just curious. "You okay?" she asked. Corbin walked toward her, took the knife gently from her hand, set it aside. He didn't speak, just pulled her into his arms, held her tight. It took her a moment to hug him back. When she did, she asked nothing. She waited. "I saw the report," he said. Her breath caught. He felt her exhale slowly against his chest. "I wanted to tell you," she whispered. "I just didn't want it to break anything." "You didn't break anything." He pulled back, looked her in the eyes. She did. They didn't discuss the details over dinner. Corbin didn't bring up the court filings he planned to submit. Sarah didn't ask what Vivian said. They ate slowly, held hands, sat in silence afterward while the dishwasher hummed. 2 days later, Corbin began quietly moving financial controls. He rewrote the trust documents with the family lawyer. He redirected foundation funds, removed Vivian from the board of 3 non-profits. He shifted the penthouse deed into Sarah's name, consolidated assets, took his mother off his emergency contact forms. He didn't tell Sarah everything. He just came home with fresh flowers and a grocery bag and told her they should start hosting dinners again. Her smile that night reached her eyes. Vivian sent 3 messages that week, all unread, all deleted. Sarah asked once if she should respond. "No," Corbin said. "She's not owed a reply. She's still your mother." Corbin's voice was calm. "So were you." They didn't announce it to anyone. No press release, no family statement, but quietly, everywhere that once said Vivian Marklin, new names began to appear. Names of people who had never needed to control a room to be respected. People like Sarah. Vivian didn't go quietly, but she did go, and for the first time in her life, no one followed. Lazarus Cove didn't ask questions about the people he was hired to follow. He asked about payment, expectations, and delivery windows. He took the work, did the work, and left quietly. He had trailed husbands suspected of cheating, CEOs hiding money, and socialites who didn't want their photos taken but made sure they were always seen. When Vivian Marklin hired him, she was polite, short-spoken, dressed in beige silk. She didn't give him reasons. She gave him a check. And her instructions were clear. Follow Sarah Lindell. Find proof of an affair or anything questionable. I need her gone, not arrested. She said it the way one might order a table to be cleared. Lazarus agreed. His silence was expensive, and usually his silence stayed loyal to whoever paid the most. The first day, he watched Sarah leave her flower shop wearing a soft grey sweater and a ponytail. She carried a reusable coffee cup in one hand and a large tote slung over her shoulder. She stopped twice on her way to the car, once to pet a neighbor's dog, once to help an old man lift a crate into his trunk. Nothing unusual, too clean maybe. He followed her down the avenue. She parked in front of a vendor market, picked up 5 bundles of hydrangeas, and spent 15 minutes comparing eucalyptus leaves. No suspicious activity. He watched again the next day, and the next. Sarah's routine was routine: work, lunch, deliveries, inventory. On the 5th day, she stayed late at the shop. The lights were off by 10. He saw her sit in her car for 12 minutes before driving off. That night, she stopped by a 24-hour diner, ate alone, paid with cash, left a $20 tip on a $15 bill. Lazarus wrote it down anyway. He wasn't used to watching people who didn't notice. Most people, even the innocent ones, eventually sensed a shadow behind them. They flinched, turned around, looked over their shoulder. Sarah didn't. She moved through the world like no one was after her, or maybe like she already knew they were and just didn't care anymore. He gathered hours of footage. Sarah eating at her desk. Sarah watering plants. Sarah texting Corbin, "Don't forget to eat, love." Sarah hugging a customer whose bouquet order had to be changed because her husband died earlier than expected. No affairs, no secret meetings, no slip-ups. Lazarus didn't edit what he saw. He simply kept the camera on. He had worked cases where the subject smiled in public and drank themselves into unconsciousness 2 blocks later. But Sarah wasn't performing. She was consistent, real. By week 2, something in Lazaren's mind shifted, not because he liked her. He didn't allow himself to like clients or targets, but because she reminded him of someone he used to know. A woman from years ago, same quiet strength, same bent toward kindness even when no one was watching. That woman had died in her apartment without anyone noticing for 2 days. And Lazaren had never forgiven himself for not checking sooner. Watching Sarah triggered something he hadn't felt in years, the need to protect. But this time, he was being paid to destroy. One night, Sarah parked her car 3 blocks from her apartment. Rain started just as she stepped out. No umbrella, no coat. Lazaren stayed in his car, engine running. She didn't run. She stood under a flickering street lamp, shoulders low, head tilted up, letting the rain hit her full on. Then she got in the car again and sat still. She didn't check her phone, didn't turn on the radio, didn't cry, didn't move. She just sat, with both hands on the steering wheel, eyes forward, like she was trying to remember something she hadn't told anyone in years. He watched the seconds tick past. 5, 10, 30. Then she reached into her glove compartment, pulled out a manila envelope, stared at it, and finally tucked it back. No drama, no explosion, just something breaking, quietly. Lazaren didn't take a picture. He lowered the camera. The next morning, she visited a women's shelter across town. She handed the receptionist the same envelope, then left without saying anything else. That afternoon, he opened a new file. But this time, it wasn't for Vivian. It was for himself. He returned to the shop, pretended to buy a bouquet, paid in cash, watched how Sarah worked. Shoulders relaxed, voice gentle, no hint of fear. She thanked him with a genuine smile, offered him a receipt he declined, and moved on to her next customer. It wasn't just professionalism, it was dignity. Lazaren stood outside for a long moment, then called Vivian's number. She didn't answer. He left a voice message. No findings yet. May need more time. No suspicious activity. Will update soon. He hung up and deleted the audio file. He drove to his office and started sorting files. From Sarah's week of routines, he compiled 2 sets of reports. One clean, sanitized, surface level. The other, detailed, emotional, real. The first one would go to Vivian. The second, he didn't know yet. But someone needed to see it. The final straw came on a rainy Thursday. Sarah was at the shop alone. The power had gone out briefly. She stayed calm, lit candles, called the electric company, and kept helping customers. Lazaren watched from across the street. A man stepped into the store. Rough, sloppy, not a customer. He raised his voice. Something about a refund. Something about you people. Sarah never raised her voice back. She walked him outside, spoke with him, pointed at the nearby bus stop. The man left. She exhaled and locked the door behind her. Her hand shook a little as she set the closed sign. Lazaren didn't move, didn't interfere, but that night he added a new section to his file. Marked it, unprotected. He finished the full surveillance by the weekend. 10 days. Dozens of hours of footage. Dozens of pages of observations. Vivian sent a reminder message. Status? He replied, "Will deliver a full report in 48 hours. He delivered the fake version early. No red flags. No evidence. Target is clean. Vivian said nothing back, but Lazaren knew she wasn't done. So he printed 2 copies of the real file. One he locked in his safe. The other he hand-delivered to Corbin Markland and walked away. Corbin hadn't been expecting anyone that morning. His assistant Lyle buzzed him with a quiet, "Someone just dropped this off, no name." He walked into his office and found the envelope on his desk, thick, sealed, unlabeled. He stared at it for a full minute. Something in him already knew. He peeled it open slowly. Inside, the documents weren't stamped. The pages weren't watermarked. But the contents? Undeniable. The first page listed dates. followed by photos, time-stamped observations, voice transcripts, surveillance logs. At first, he assumed it was Vivian's attempt to scare him. Some threat, something meant to intimidate Sarah or ruin their peace again. But as he flipped further, the tone shifted. There were pictures of Sarah handing out food trays at a shelter, a log of how she helped a girl from a halfway house apply for a weekend florist job, photos of her crying in her car at 10:22 p.m. after donating what looked like her personal savings. Then voice notes, soft audio logs, comments from the man watching her. She hasn't broken once. Rain didn't stop her from delivering a wedding bouquet herself when her driver cancelled. No unusual activity, no sign of deceit. She stays late and sleeps light. Corbin's hands tightened around the pages. His mother had paid someone to find dirt, and instead, the man had found proof of Sarah's quiet resilience. Attached at the end was a personal note. Typed, "This woman isn't the liability. She's the reason your family name still has any dignity left. Be careful who you believe next time. LC." No signature, no return address, just initials. Corbin set the folder down, stared out the window of his office. Below, Manhattan buzzed as usual, loud, fast, expensive. But his whole world had just slowed to a single realization. He had married a woman his mother couldn't control, and instead of admiring her for it, he'd let that woman face the attacks alone. He cancelled his meetings for the day, didn't say why. He drove straight home. Sarah was in the kitchen sorting dried lavender bundles. Music played faintly from the speaker in the hallway. She looked up when he walked in. "Hey," she said, wiping her hands. "You okay?" He didn't answer right away. He held up the folder. She froze. Her eyes didn't widen. She didn't panic. She just nodded, slowly, like she'd been waiting for this moment to arrive on its own terms. "I figured it would reach you eventually," she said. "You knew." She nodded, not who sent it. "But I knew something was coming. I saw someone watching the shop a few times. He didn't look like a customer. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to push you into a corner. That's not love." Corbin swallowed hard. This, what she did. "I know," Sarah said gently, "but so do you now. That's what matters." He stepped closer. "You don't have to be this calm. I've already cried, gotten angry, lost sleep. What's left is choosing how to move forward." That night, Corbin barely slept. He stared at the ceiling while Sarah curled beside him, still breathing steady. In the dark, he thought about every moment he'd told her, "I'll talk to her," and never followed through. Every time he saw a flicker of pain in Sarah's eyes and looked away. He wasn't blind. He was afraid of breaking the image of the mother who had raised him. But now he saw that image had never been real. Vivian didn't protect. She erased. Until now. The next morning, Corbin walked into his lawyer's office with the folder in hand. He said 2 words, "Make changes." The lawyer asked no questions. Within 24 hours, Vivian was removed from the Markland Foundation Board, the estate's power of attorney records were reassigned, and every shared asset was locked behind new access protocols. Sarah was quietly granted full ownership of the West Village property. Vivian's monthly stipends were paused, and the woman who once smiled while pulling strings behind velvet curtains would wake up to find she no longer had any strings left to pull. Meanwhile, Sarah never asked what Corbin had done. She didn't bring it up over breakfast. She didn't pry when he came home with a calmer look on his face. She simply kept building her life, one bouquet, one day, one breath at a time. Because peace wasn't something she waited for. It was something she built from the inside out. 3 days later, Corbin got a call from an unlisted number. He answered out of habit. Vivian's voice was quiet, strained. "You've gone too far." "I haven't gone far enough. I gave you everything," she said sharply. "No," he replied. "You gave me conditions. Sarah gave me peace." Silence, then a sigh. "You'll regret this." "No," Corbin said again. "You will." He hung up, blocked the number, and never heard her voice again. That evening, Sarah brought home a small package. Inside, a red velvet box. Corbin raised an eyebrow. "Open it," she said. Inside was a single cufflink, engraved with the letter M. He blinked. "You had this made?" "I found it in the boutique's Lost and Found a year ago," she smiled. "Turns out it matched one of yours from that first gala. Thought it deserved to come home." He stared at her, speechless, then pulled her into his arms. "How do you always know exactly what I need?" "Because I pay attention," she whispered. "Even when others don't." They didn't go out to celebrate. They stayed in, cooked dinner, lit candles, and shared the kind of silence that wasn't heavy, but whole. Lazarin Cove had handled more files than he could count. Courtroom, evidence, surveillance reports, marriage betrayals, money laundering trails. He had captured everything from boardroom blackmail to mistresses hiding in city-funded apartments. He'd been paid to ruin people with truth, and he did it with clinical precision. But this time, he stared at a folder he hadn't been paid to create. No one was waiting for it. No client would approve it. And yet, it was the most complete work he'd ever compiled. He laid it open on his desk, every page methodically organized, indexed, and time-stamped. But it wasn't just data. It was a story, one he wasn't sure he had the right to tell. There were 27 entries in total, each day captured through the lens of suspicion, then recorded with something closer to awe. Day 1, Target greeted a stranger in her shop after closing to return a forgotten wallet. No cameras, no staff, no hesitation. Day 4, observed assisting an unhoused woman with directions and food money. Did not take photos, simply handed her cash. Day 8, stayed an extra hour to finish arrangements for a grieving mother who changed her funeral order last minute. Refused compensation. Each entry blurred the line between observation and realization. This wasn't a woman hiding secrets. This was a woman being watched while simply surviving. The more he wrote, the more conflicted he became. He remembered the first time he saw Sarah crying in her car. How still she had been. She hadn't broken down. She hadn't screamed. She just sat with it, the envelope in her hand, the way she pressed it to her chest. Like grief had become something she didn't have words for anymore. He had filmed that moment. He hadn't submitted it. He couldn't. He printed 2 versions of the file. One stripped and sanitized. Timelines, receipts, surface-level movement. That was for Vivienne. She'd asked for something usable in court. He gave her something useless, and he hoped she choked on it. The other file stayed with him for a day, untouched. Then he stared at it for 2 more days, asking himself if delivering it to Corbin would be a mistake. He didn't care about the ethics. He cared that Corbin might ignore it, that he might see it and do nothing. That was the risk. Because Sarah had handled all this, the sabotage, the rumors, the pressure, with dignity. If her husband couldn't match her, then what was the point? He waited outside Corbin's building, watched him arrive, watched him take a call, check his watch, adjust his jacket. Normal. Polished. Everything Vivienne had raised him to be. Lazarin didn't flinch when he stepped into the lobby. He handed the envelope to the receptionist. No name, no return address. Just make sure he gets it. And left. That night, he stood in his apartment, drink in hand, looking out, over a city of windows filled with people living out performances. But Sarah hadn't performed. That haunted him more than anything. He remembered the day he first realized Vivienne's assignment was personal. Not business. Not protection. Personal. She hadn't asked for honesty. She asked for ammunition. He should have walked away then. But now, he was glad he hadn't. Because this time, the person watching didn't just report back. He interfered. And he'd do it again. He called an old contact, someone who owed him a favor, asked her to do a light background scan on the Marklin financials. Nothing criminal, just a hint, a trail. When she called back 2 days later, her voice was quiet. There's already movement. Quiet asset transfers, new trustees. Vivian's name is being peeled off everything. He exhaled once. You did this, didn't you? She asked. No, Lazarus replied. She did. I just made sure someone finally noticed. He closed the file, locked it in a safe, and went to bed with the strange feeling of having done the right thing, even though no one had asked him to. Sarah didn't remember when she started keeping her phone on silent. She just needed the world to stop interrupting her peace. No dings, no buzz, no surprises. That morning, she wrapped a bouquet for a customer's baby shower, tucked a handwritten note inside. Every new bloom is a reminder that beauty comes from starting over. She liked that line. She wrote it often. She wasn't sure who needed it more, her customers or herself. Business was steady, even with the sabotage. Word of mouth kept orders flowing. She worked longer hours, took no days off. Her assistant, Noreen, kept offering to cover. Sarah kept refusing. She needed the distraction, because it had stopped being about flowers a long time ago. She noticed the man again that afternoon. Second time in 2 weeks. Same car, different time. Parked across the street with tinted windows, engine running. She didn't panic. She just took mental notes. Same shape. Same jacket. Always alone. Didn't leave the car. Didn't try to speak. Just watched. She told herself he could have been a nosy landlord, a lost driver, a PI from a wedding client's messy divorce. But deep down, she knew who sent him. When she got home that night, she dropped her keys and sat on the floor for 20 minutes. Not because she was tired, but because standing meant choosing between breaking down or holding it in. And both required energy she didn't have. Corbin wasn't home. He'd texted earlier. Board meeting ran long. Be home by 9. She hadn't replied. Not out of anger, out of exhaustion. Love wasn't in question, but protection. That was harder to believe in lately, because no matter how many sweet texts he sent, she still felt alone when a man was watching her from across the street and no one was stopping it. She cooked, ate, washed her plate, then went into the spare room where she kept a small lockbox. Inside were papers she never planned to use, her original lease, copies of the store's ownership records, receipts that proved she had paid every tax on time, and the email she'd never shown Corbin, the one accusing her of theft. She held it for a while. Read it again. Still anonymous. Still gutting. She placed it back and locked the box, then went to bed fully clothed, lights on. When Corbin came in later, he kissed her forehead and whispered, "You awake?" She was, but she didn't answer. He exhaled, undressed quietly, and slid into bed beside her. She didn't turn toward him. She couldn't. Not tonight. The next morning, a delivery driver dropped off a package at the store. No sender name. Sarah opened it slowly. Inside was a single folded document, printed. The first sentence stopped her breath. You were followed for 10 days. I was hired to find your flaws. I found none. She read it 3 times. No threat, no claim, just facts. Whoever this person was, they had watched her, not for justice but for removal. And somewhere along the line, they changed sides. She looked out the window, expecting the car again. It wasn't there, just a quiet street, a passing cyclist, and the hum of traffic in the distance. But she didn't feel safer. She felt seen, and being seen wasn't the same as being safe. Noreen noticed she was quiet that day. You okay? She asked. Just a long week, Sarah replied. Want me to close up? Sarah shook her head. No, I'll stay late. Go rest. After Noreen left, she turned off the front lights and sat behind the counter, the mystery report open on the desk. She traced a sentence with her finger. You walk through the world like you don't owe anyone an explanation. I envy that. It wasn't just a surveillance report. It was a confession, and she didn't know what to do with it. At home that night, she found Corbin sitting on the couch with a manila folder in his lap. He looked up when she walked in. You got one too? She asked. He nodded. Silence settled like dust in the air. He didn't give his name, Corbin said, but he gave me enough. Sarah sat down across from him. "Did you read all of it?" "Twice." She nodded. "Then you know everything." Corbyn's eyes held a mix of guilt and awe. "You didn't deserve any of it," he said. "And you never told me. You already had your hands full deciding which world you belonged to," she said softly. "I didn't want to tip the scale. I should have noticed. You weren't raised to—" That truth hung heavier than either of them expected. Corbyn stood, walked to her, sat beside her on the floor. "I don't want to fix this from the outside," he said. "I want to protect you from the inside out." Sarah looked at him, and this time she didn't hold it in. She cried, not in heaves or sobs, just tears that refused to stop falling. Corbyn pulled her into his arms and let them fall. They didn't talk much after that. They didn't need to. Corbyn knew what he had to do. And Sarah knew she wasn't alone anymore. Not fully. Not anymore. Corbyn Markland had spent his entire adult life building walls. Not emotional ones. Professional ones. Legal ones. The kind that kept his reputation spotless, his finances protected, and his public image untouchable. But that morning, as he sat in his home office surrounded by silence, the folder Lazaran delivered rested like a weight on his chest. Sarah hadn't asked him to open it. She hadn't demanded he read it. But she'd allowed it to sit on the table, open, untouched, waiting. And that silence told him everything. He took a deep breath and turned the first page. What stared back at him wasn't scandal. It was character, log entries, timestamps, context, footage stills, voice recordings. Page after page, he followed his wife through the quiet storms she never mentioned, the man she gently turned away when he drunkenly pounded on her store window, and the police calls she never told Corbyn about, the customer who shorted her 3 invoices in a row, then threatened a negative online campaign if she didn't refund him twice the amount, and how she calmly refunded him anyway, just to keep the peace. The shelter donation, the envelopes, the repeated visits. None of these were moments of weakness. They were proof that she was surviving something she didn't start, and that she had done it alone. Corbyn kept reading. He saw the shadow figure in the car that trailed her, noted the dates, the early closures, the nights she didn't eat dinner because she stayed at the shop fixing what someone else had broken. Then came the surveillance stills, her sitting in the rain, her holding her head in her hands, her talking to herself on a rooftop, whispering, "You're okay, you're fine, you're not broken." His throat tightened. He wasn't sure when the tears started, only that they didn't stop for a while. By page 20, he saw the full list of anonymous attacks. Each digital fingerprint led to untraceable servers, all registered through an obscure vendor. That, upon closer inspection, had once done PR work for Vivian's charity network. He had enough evidence to connect the dots, enough to press charges, enough to burn bridges. But the question wasn't, could he? It was, should he? When he closed the file, he sat in stillness. Then he picked up his phone and made 3 quiet calls. One to the lawyer who managed the Markland Trust, one to the foundation manager who still reported to Vivienne, and one to his banker, the one who knew how to reassign accounts without setting off alarms. Each call ended with the same message, "I'm ready." By midday, Corbyn had quietly revoked his mother's access to 7 different financial and legal properties tied to the Markland name. By afternoon, he had locked her out of the foundation's administrative dashboard. By evening, Vivian's title was quietly removed from 3 board rosters. No press, no scandal, no statement. Sarah came home from the shop at 6:40. She looked tired, but not broken. He walked to her, took her bag, and kissed her forehead. "You smell like roses," he said softly. She chuckled faintly. "That's because I spent all morning wrist-deep in thorns." He led her to the couch. "I read the file," he said. She nodded. "I already knew who you were. I just didn't realize how much of you I hadn't protected." Her eyes searched his face. "You don't owe me guilt. I do," he said. Not because I believed her, but because I stayed quiet. Sarah looked away for a moment. "Your silence hurt more than her lies." He sat beside her. It won't happen again. They ate dinner slowly that night. Music played low. No interruptions. Afterward, Corbin opened his laptop and showed her the foundation edits. The trust fund reallocations. The asset shifts. Sarah didn't cheer. She didn't gasp. She just reached out, held his hand and said, "You're home now." At midnight, Corbin opened his email, typed a message to Lazarus Cove. "I got the file. I understand what you did. Thank you." He didn't expect a reply, but a minute later one came. She didn't need protecting. She just needed someone to finally believe her. Corbin read it twice, then shut his laptop. Vivian Markland didn't react right away. The first sign came when her personal assistant found her email credentials disabled. Then, her charity board access denied. And finally, when the Markland Trust Fund's family portal returned a red restricted banner when she tried to check her monthly allocation. She made 2 calls. Neither went through. She called Corbin. He didn't answer. She drove to the foundation's legal office the next morning. The receptionist greeted her like nothing had changed. Vivian smiled as usual. "I'm here to see Spencer," she said. Spencer, the family's lawyer of 15 years, came out 10 minutes later. His tie wasn't as crisp. His eyes didn't hold the usual warmth. "Vivian," he said with a tight nod. "Come in." He didn't ask if she wanted coffee. He didn't compliment her brooch or scarf. He handed her a file. Her name was no longer listed under the primary trustee roles. Her emergency access rights were null. Her ability to authorize major moves was revoked. She stared at the page. "Why wasn't I informed?" Spencer folded his hands. Corbin filed a complete restructuring based on breach of internal ethics. There's audio, surveillance logs, tampering with external business operations connected to his legal spouse. Vivian blinked slowly. She did not lose her temper. Instead, she leaned back and smiled, faintly. He's chosen her. He chose what was right. That afternoon, Vivian called a friend at the post, not to leak anything, but to see if they'd heard any rumors. Nothing had. That was worse. Corbin wasn't going to make this public. He was going to bury her quietly. She didn't know how to fight that, not because she lacked power, but because she had no idea where the attack had even started. She had expected outrage. She had prepared for confrontation, but silence. That wasn't something she knew how to survive. Corbin received her text at 4:12 p.m. "I never thought you'd erase me." He didn't reply, not out of cruelty, but because the woman who claimed to love him had tried to ruin the only person who'd never asked for a penny of his name. And there was nothing more to say. Back at home, Sarah folded inventory receipts in the living room. Corbin sat beside her, a notepad open in his lap, planning a soft launch for his new tech incubator, a non-profit designed for first general business founders. It was the first time in weeks they felt aligned. No shadows between them. No one watching. Just them. Rebuilding. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said. He looked up. "Anything. If your mother asked for a second chance, would you give it?" He took a long pause. "I'd listen," he said, "but I wouldn't undo the truth. She did what she did, and if she claimed she was trying to protect you, I'd ask her why destroying you was her version of protection." Sarah nodded slowly. "That's the difference," she said, "between people like her and people like you." That night, Corbin received a second message, this time from Lazarus. It wasn't long. "You did the right thing. I've seen enough men stand by and do nothing. You didn't." Corbin didn't reply this time. He simply shut his phone and looked at Sarah asleep beside him. He brushed a hand down her back, memorizing the steady rhythm of her breath. She had survived every blow in silence, and now, for once, she didn't have to survive alone. Vivian Markland didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She didn't call lawyers in a panic or storm into boardrooms. She did what she had always done. She planned. If there was one thing she couldn't stand, it was being cornered by people she raised, especially her only child. Corbin had cut her out with the elegance she'd once admired in herself. No public humiliation, no spectacle. He simply erased her access, disconnected her power, and handed it, all of it, to the woman Vivian had tried to make disappear. And now, she was invisible. The irony was suffocating. She called her attorney Miles Brett. Old money. Quiet operator. Loyal to her for over 2 decades. "You have to challenge it," she said. Miles didn't sigh, but his pause spoke louder. "Vivienne, he filed a full restructuring. He has documentation, testimony." "From who?" "From the investigator. Cove." Vivian straightened. "He was paid to deliver a result. He delivered the truth. And he's protected. I want the trust reinstated. You'd have to go to private court. Arbitration. And they will request the original file. I want a closed hearing. No press. It still becomes public record after a ruling. You know that." Vivian's voice tightened. "Then bury it in process. Delay it. Do something." Miles didn't reply right away. Finally he said, "I'll see what I can do," which meant, "I'll try, but it's likely lost." Across town, Corbin sat with Sarah in their apartment, reviewing architectural drafts for a new location. A second floral shop in a quieter neighborhood, one with better foot traffic and fewer zoning issues. "I'm thinking we name it after your grandmother," he said. Sarah smiled. "Mina's was always her dream. And now it's yours." He paused. "She'd be proud of you." "I hope so," Sarah replied softly. "I didn't inherit her strength." Corbin shook his head. "No, you rebuilt it." The court summons came 3 days later. Vivian had filed for wrongful removal from the trust, claiming coercion, lack of formal consent, abuse of power. Corbin expected it. So did his lawyer. But what he didn't expect was Sarah's name being included in the documents, listed as an undue influencer. Sarah read the paper twice. She didn't speak for a long moment. "She's accusing me of manipulating you," she finally said. Corbin took the document and folded it. "She's trying to bait us." Sarah nodded. "So don't take it." Their lawyer filed a full counter. Included in the documentation, the anonymous emails, tampered vendor contracts, inspector tip-offs, and most importantly, the testimony from Lazarin Cove. The statement was precise, signed and time-stamped. Vivian had hired him to ruin Sarah. He refused, and he had the receipts to prove it. The hearing was private, neutral location, no media allowed. Sarah didn't want to attend. Corbin didn't pressure her, but she showed up anyway, not to defend herself, but to make sure Vivian saw her standing. Vivian arrived in pearls and black cashmere, calm as ever. Sarah wore a navy blue dress, simple, tailored, with the same necklace Corbin had given her the day of their City Hall wedding. No makeup, no performance, just presence. Vivian looked at her once, didn't speak. Sarah didn't look away. When the judge reviewed the material, there was no room for argument. The manipulation was clear, the chain of actions too calculated. Vivian lost. She wasn't fined. She wasn't publicly condemned, but she walked out with no titles, no ties, no leverage, just silence. Exactly what she'd once used to wage her war, now turned against her. After the hearing, Vivian stood in the marble lobby, staring out at the street. Sarah passed behind her, calm, quiet, still. Vivian didn't turn around, but she spoke. "You didn't win because you were right." Sarah paused. "Then why did I?" Vivian's voice was cold. "Because you outlasted me." Sarah nodded once. "I didn't want to, but I had more to lose." Then she walked out into the sunlight and didn't look back. Vivian Markland's name still echoed through the right circles. But after the arbitration ruling, no one repeated it as often. They whispered it, smiled at her politely, let her speeches go longer than usual, out of pity, not respect. The title former trustee stuck to her like a wine stain. She tried to ignore it. She still hosted dinners, still posted her porcelain brunches online, but her replies dropped. Her influence waned. She didn't blame Corbin anymore. She blamed the woman who didn't break. Sarah didn't celebrate the win. There was no champagne, no announcement, no "I told you so." She returned to her shop, cut stems, changed water, smiled at walk-ins. Noreen offered to close early. Sarah declined. "People remember how you serve when you're tired," she said. Corbin stopped by that evening, unannounced, with warm pastries and jasmine tea. He didn't mention the ruling. He just said, "I missed you today," and sat beside her in the back room while she sorted rose petals. 2 days later, an envelope came in the mail. No sender name, no handwriting. Inside, a single check, made out to Sarah, 7 figures. From one of Vivian's private accounts. There was no note, no explanation. Sarah stared at it for a long time, then put it through the shredder without saying a word. That night, she and Corbin walked the High Line. The city below shimmered, the wind tugged at her coat. She stopped near a bench, looked out, then turned to him. "She thinks I want her money. You've never wanted her anything. She doesn't understand people like me." Corbin tucked a curl behind her ear. "She's never had to." Sarah smiled faintly. "That's her loss." Lazarus sent a message the next morning. "Saw the ruling. You walked through hell in heels. Respect." She smiled at the phone, then typed, "You're the reason it didn't burn me alive." No reply came, and that felt right. Meanwhile, Corbin started the next phase of transition. The non-profit incubator, named after Sarah's grandmother, Mina, launched in Brooklyn. Its mission was clear: fund and mentor first-time entrepreneurs who had been shut out of spaces like the ones his mother used to control. Sarah spoke at the opening. She stood behind the podium, nerves tight, voice calm. "I didn't come from much," she said, "but I knew how to build with my hands. Some of you know what that's like, so build anyway, even if they say you don't belong." Especially then, the applause was quiet, but every hand clapped with sincerity. Vivian received a press release. She saw the name, Mina. She remembered that name from a conversation years ago. Sarah had mentioned it once while stirring sugar into her tea, back when Vivian thought she still had time to erase the woman her son loved. She folded the article, filed it, and never spoke of it again. Corbin came home late one night. Sarah was already asleep. He stood in the doorway of their bedroom, watching her breathe, soft, steady, whole. She didn't need a mansion, didn't demand headlines, didn't ask to be proven right, but he would spend the rest of his life making sure no one ever questioned her place again. The invitation came as a short text. From Sarah. "There's a bench at 53rd Botanical, 1 p.m. Lunch is on me, even if you didn't finish the job your client wanted." Lazarus didn't reply immediately. He stared at the screen like it was a question he hadn't expected to hear again. He wasn't the type to meet with subjects. He didn't stay in touch. He didn't revisit people whose lives he'd been hired to crack open. But this wasn't most cases. And Sarah Lindell hadn't been a subject. She had been a mirror. He arrived at 12:58. Sarah was already seated on the stone bench near the koi pond, cross-legged, arms wrapped loosely around a brown paper bag. No makeup, no show, just her. He approached, said nothing. She looked up and gave him a quiet smile. "You're 2 minutes early." He sat beside her. "I scout my locations." "Of course you do." She handed him a sandwich from the bag. "Chicken pesto." "Thought about asking if you had allergies but didn't want to leave a trail." He smirked once, took the sandwich, and nodded in approval. Safe enough. They ate without speaking for several minutes. The pond rippled. Birds darted overhead. The world kept turning, and neither of them filled the silence just to make it go away. "You're not what I expected," Sarah said finally. "Good." She glanced sideways. "Why did you take the job?" "Because it paid. Because I didn't know you. Because I didn't care." She didn't flinch. "And what changed?" He set down the sandwich wrapper, leaned back. "You didn't hide anything. That's what threw me. Most people I watch, they have layers, angles. You didn't. You were just, you." Sarah looked down at her hands. "I wasn't always that way. I figured." She looked up again. "But I earned it. Peace. I worked for it." And she tried to rip it out from under me like it was borrowed. Lazarus nodded once. That's why I turned. A bee hovered nearby. Sarah didn't move. "I'm not going to thank you," she said gently. "I wouldn't trust you if you did, but I will say this." She turned to face him fully now. "You had a choice. You made one. And my life stayed mine because of it." Lazarus didn't answer right away. Then, "I wasn't doing it for you." "I know." They both understood the truth beneath the words. After lunch, Sarah stood, brushing crumbs from her skirt. "I don't need a protector," she said. "You never did, but it's nice to know one existed, even for a few weeks." He stood beside her. "If you ever need someone followed," she raised an eyebrow. "I'd prefer to live without needing shadows." He smirked. "That's the right answer." They exchanged no hug, no handshake, just a shared nod, and he left first, the same way he'd entered her life, unannounced. But this time, not unwelcome. Sarah didn't talk about the lunch with Corbin that night, not because she was hiding anything, but because some moments weren't meant to be retold. They were meant to live quietly in the memory of the people who shared them. Still, Corbin knew something had shifted. That evening, Sarah came home lighter. She cooked while humming again, something she hadn't done in weeks. And when he leaned against the counter and asked, "Good day?" she answered, "Better than most." He didn't press. He never did, not when it came to what Sarah chose to carry on her own. She had been alone long before she met him. And even now, with him by her side, there were still parts of her that lived in rooms with closed doors. But he didn't take that personally, because what she gave him, trust, loyalty, forgiveness, came without demand. It was enough. That weekend, they visited the new flower shop location together. Sarah walked the space like an architect in a dream, tracing invisible walls, measuring with steps, touching window panes. "This one gets more sun," she said softly. Corbin smiled. "Natural lighting means less stress on orchids." She turned, surprised. "When did you learn that?" "Since I fell in love with a woman who talks to petals like people." She laughed, then paused. "Some of them have more character than humans." He stepped closer. "But you still believe in people?" "I try to," she whispered. They started sketching ideas that night. Colors, arrangements, layout. She wanted a small reading corner. He wanted a tech station for online orders. "You're going to make this place smarter than my entire first office," she teased. "I'm making it strong," he said. "Like the woman who runs it." Meanwhile, Lazarus moved back into his own rhythm. He didn't take on new jobs for a week, didn't return every call. He reorganized his files, shut down a burner number he no longer needed, and updated one of his rare handwritten logs, a short note under the Sarah Lindell file. No longer under surveillance, not because she's safe, but because she made herself unshakable. Then he closed the book and moved on. But one afternoon, he received a letter. No stamp, delivered by hand. Inside, a small thank you card. No signature, just 2 lines. "Some shadows protect without ever standing in the light. Thank you for stepping out, just once." Lazarus smiled, burned the note, and poured himself a drink. Sarah never told anyone she sent it. She didn't have to. Some things don't need credit. They need closure. 2 years passed without drama. No headlines, no family exposes, no unexpected visits. Just peace, the kind that didn't ask for attention but made itself felt in small, permanent ways. Sarah's second shop opened with no ribbon-cutting ceremony, no influencer shout-outs, no press releases, just customers, mothers looking for condolence lilies, teens buying last-minute corsages, couples choosing centerpieces for their simple backyard weddings. She kept her head down and her shop open, because peace, she'd learned, wasn't about silence. It was about sustainability. Corbin's incubator grew too. He started with 7 applicants, all under 30, all from neighborhoods no one usually invested in. He funded them quietly, gave them office space, matched them with retired mentors who didn't care about LinkedIn profiles but cared deeply about grit. He called it the Root Project. Sarah had named it. Said, Every flower starts with what people don't see. He never forgot that. They still lived in the same apartment. They could have moved. They could have bought something in Midtown or a townhouse in the West End. But Sarah liked their crooked walls and the sound of rain on the skylight. And Corbin liked coming home to a kitchen that smelled like ginger and mint, not marble polish. They added a second bookshelf, a bigger couch, a dining table built from reclaimed wood and old bakery crates. Everything they added had meaning. Nothing was just for show. One Tuesday morning, Corbin found Sarah in the back office of the shop. She was barefoot, coffee in hand, organizing invoices on the floor in color-coded folders. He leaned on the doorframe. "You know, most people use desks." She looked up. "Most people don't work in a flower shop where the copier randomly overheats and the desk drawer sticks." He grinned and stepped in, dropping a paper bag on the floor. She peeked in. "Walnut croissants? With extra honey. I paid in full this time, so I don't owe you awkward compliments for a week." She laughed and leaned against him. "How's your morning?" she asked. "Productive, grounded, better now." He watched her as she flipped through order forms. Focused, calm, entirely unaware of how powerful she looked, not because she was commanding a room, but because she didn't need to. She didn't crave attention. She moved like someone who'd already survived the spotlight and never wanted to stand in it again. Later that afternoon, a customer walked in holding a baby. Young mother, nervous, clutching a torn flyer. Sarah stepped out front and smiled. "How can I help? I'm trying to find something for my sister. She just got a teaching job. She always loved sunflowers." Sarah walked her to a small table by the window. "What's her favorite color?" "Blue." "Got it." They crafted something simple. Bright sunflowers, soft blue ribbon, a handwritten card. The customer left, smiling. Corbin, watching from the corner, leaned down to Sarah as she walked back. "You're building people without them even noticing." Sarah smiled. "That's the best kind of building." They walked home together that evening. No car, just sneakers and the sound of their own footsteps. "Dinner or leftovers?" she asked. "Dinner." "Your day deserves something new. You say that every day. Then maybe you deserve new things every day." She didn't answer with words. She laced her fingers through his and squeezed his hand gently. The trip was supposed to be a short weekend getaway. Corbin had booked the cabin 6 months earlier. Quiet lake, no phone reception, a real fireplace, just the two of them. Sarah packed light, sweaters, socks, a notebook she hadn't written in for months. They were ready to leave by 10 a.m. until she bent to zip her travel bag and spotted the edge of something under the bed. Not dust, not forgotten socks. Paper. A file. She knelt, reached, and pulled it out slowly. Her hands recognized it before her eyes did. It was the file Lazarus had compiled, the real one, the one Corbin had never returned, never burned, never discussed again. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed and opened it. It was all still there. Photos of her from behind a flower cart, in the rain, walking alone near the shelter. Voice notes from the investigator. Calm, objective, increasingly reverent. Timestamps, descriptions, data that mapped her life during a time she barely survived. She ran her fingers down the edges of the papers, not because she needed to reread it, but because this was the version of her no one had ever applauded. Not the wife, not the business owner, not the survivor, just the woman who had been quietly living through fire. While pretending nothing was wrong, Corbin stepped into the room. "Babe, you seen my charger?" He froze. She didn't look up right away. She was still on the page with the photo of her sitting in the parked car, envelope in hand, forehead resting on the steering wheel. "I forgot this was here," she said. Corbin exhaled softly, sat beside her. "I didn't want to throw it away, but I didn't know if you ever wanted to see it." Sarah traced a sentence at the bottom of the page. "Subject continues to show no signs of emotional collapse. They were waiting for me to fall apart," she whispered. "No," Corbin said. They were watching to see if you ever would, and you didn't. She closed the folder slowly. I don't hate her anymore, she said. I know. I don't think I even think about her. Until something like this shows up. I still keep a backup copy, he admitted. Not to dwell, just to remember who you were when no one else saw it. She looked at him, eyes steady, no tears, no flinch. Don't keep it for me, she said. I know who I was. I know who I am. They didn't cancel the trip. They just left an hour later after placing the file in a drawer. Not to hide it, not to destroy it, but to finally stop carrying it like it still had power. That night, by the fire, Corbin poured them each a glass of cider. Sarah curled into his side with a blanket around her legs. Do you think people change? She asked. He nodded. Some do. Some don't. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I think I changed. But I also think I returned to who I was before she tried to erase me. You never disappeared. I almost did. He kissed her hair. But you didn't. They didn't talk much after that. The fire crackled. The night was still. And for the first time in a long time, the quiet wasn't haunted. It was earned. The girl reminded Sarah of herself. Not in the way she looked, but in how she carried herself. Quiet, wary, careful not to take up too much space. Her name was Elia. 19, recently hired as a weekend assistant at the new shop location. She didn't smile much, didn't make eye contact right away, but she showed up on time, stayed late without asking, never touched her phone unless it was ringing, and she handled flowers like they were glass. Sarah noticed all of it. She didn't ask Elia personal questions. She didn't hover. But one Friday afternoon, while they were restocking orchids, Elia asked, How do you not get tired of pretending you're okay? Sarah looked up. Who said, I'm pretending? Elia shrugged. You're good at hiding stuff. People like you always are. Sarah smiled faintly. I used to be. Elia said nothing. Sarah handed her a fresh ribbon and replied, Now I'm just okay with not being perfect. They didn't talk about it again. But Elia started asking more questions. How to wire stems faster. How to manage rude clients. How to balance emotions when everything inside wanted to quit. Sarah taught her everything no one had taught her. How to speak clearly without apologizing first. How to document everything. How to build relationships with vendors who didn't look down on you. She never called it mentorship. Elia never asked for that word. But the connection grew anyway. Not loud, not forced. One day Elia asked, Have you ever wanted to walk away from all of this? Sarah nodded. Plenty of times. What stopped you? I realized I wasn't supposed to win in someone else's arena. I had to build my own. Elia blinked. So this shop is your win? No, Sarah said. This shop is my start. Corbin noticed the change in her too. She smiled more freely, held her ground quicker, and the way she carried herself, it wasn't survival anymore. It was presence. She didn't live like someone who was waiting to be attacked again. She lived like someone who had already decided if it came, she'd meet it head on, and it would lose. They attended a small networking dinner one evening, mostly entrepreneurs, non-profit founders, and artists. Sarah didn't know anyone there, but that didn't stop her from being herself. When a gallery manager asked what she did, she simply said, I arrange. The kind of things people send when they don't know what words to say. When someone else asked what kept her going, she replied, Knowing I didn't come this far to become quiet now. Corbin watched her and realized this wasn't the woman Vivian tried to erase. This was the woman Vivian feared she'd become. The letter came in early spring, cream-colored envelope, expensive paper, the handwriting, familiar. Sarah didn't need to open it to know who sent it. She stood by the mailbox for a moment, weighing it in her hands. No return address, just her name. Inside, 3 paragraphs. No apology, no ownership, no warmth. Just words like regret, misunderstood intentions, and family legacy. Vivian never once said, I'm sorry, and that told Sarah everything she needed to know. She placed the letter on the kitchen table. Corbin saw it when he came home. He didn't ask what it said. She didn't offer. He poured them both tea, sat beside her, and waited. Finally, she said, "She still doesn't get it." Corbin nodded slowly. "She never will. I think I kept hoping that if I endured enough, she'd see me." "She saw you," he said gently. "That's why she tried so hard to erase you." Sarah didn't flinch. She folded the letter and slid it into the drawer next to a stack of napkins. "I'm not writing back. You don't owe her anything." "I know," she said. "But this time, I believe it." She didn't bring up the letter again. Didn't tell Elia. Didn't tell Noreen. She didn't need to, because her silence wasn't passive anymore. It was intentional. Not everything needed closure. Some stories just needed to stop being reopened. A month later, a customer came in asking for a last-minute sympathy arrangement. Their mother had passed. The budget was small. The emotions were heavy. Sarah built something simple, thoughtful, just enough color to feel alive. The customer stared at it, stunned. "I couldn't afford more." Sarah smiled. "You don't need more. You need honest." The woman nodded slowly, eyes misty. That's exactly what she was, honest. Corbin watched from the far end of the shop. He always marveled at how Sarah could make strangers feel seen without asking for anything in return. She never tried to perform strength. She simply lived it. Every word, every choice, quiet but solid. That night, while folding laundry, Sarah paused and asked him, "Do you think it's strange I never wanted revenge?" "No," Corbin said. "I think you knew it wouldn't give you what you needed." She smiled. "It wouldn't have changed her, but it changed you," he said. She looked at him. "How?" "You stopped trying to earn space." Sarah's eyes softened. "Maybe," she said, "I finally realized I already had it." That was the last time Vivian's name was ever mentioned between them. Not because they forgot, but because they chose to live forward. And forward didn't include people who only looked back. Their second wedding anniversary fell on a Thursday. No lavish plans, no reservations, no flowers, not from a shop at least. Sarah had told Corbin she didn't want a big gesture. She wanted something real. So they stayed in. Corbin cooked, roasted vegetables, lemon garlic chicken, and fresh sourdough he'd picked up from the corner bakery that morning. Sarah lit candles in jars they'd been saving since their engagement. She didn't wear anything fancy, just a soft dress she'd worn 100 times, because Corbin once said she looked peaceful in it. They didn't play music. The quiet was enough. They sat across from each other, barefoot, wine glasses half full, the table between them set like it was sacred. And in many ways, it was. Because this wasn't just a meal. It was a marker, a reminder, a testimony, not to their perfection, but to their endurance. Midway through dinner, Corbin reached across the table and brushed his thumb over the back of her hand. "No one would have bet on us," he said softly. "They didn't have to," Sarah replied. "We weren't for them." He studied her face, the calm behind her eyes. "Do you regret any of it?" Sarah thought for a long moment. "No," she said, "because it all built this, the fire, the quiet, even her. You forgive her?" "I don't know. I don't think I need to." He nodded. "That's fair," she added, "but I forgive me, for staying quiet, for shrinking, for almost becoming someone I wouldn't recognize." Corbin stood and walked around the table. He pulled her to her feet and kissed her slowly, forehead first, then mouth, then both cheeks. "You never became anything but everything," he whispered. Later that night, they sat on the couch with old photo albums. Corbin flipped to a candid shot of Sarah holding a bouquet in front of her first store, the one Vivian tried to sabotage. "You look like you had no idea what was coming," he said. "I didn't, but you still smiled." He turned the page, found a photo of them at City Hall. The morning they married in front of 5 people and a clerk who barely looked up. "We didn't even have vows," he said. "We didn't need them. Say them now." Sarah smiled. "You first." He looked at her and said, "I promise to never let you stand alone again. Not in storms, not in silence, not even in rooms that look too polished to be trusted." She nodded. I promise to speak, even when it's hard. To remember that silence isn't strength unless I choose it. And to never shrink again, not for anyone, not even for love. They kissed. The kind of kiss that didn't feel like the start of something new, but the honoring of everything old and earned. They slept in the next morning. No alarms, no phones, just the hum of morning light seeping through linen curtains and the steady rhythm of breathing shared beneath the quilt. Sarah woke first. She didn't rush to get up. She lay still, watching the man she married turn slightly in his sleep, arms loose around the space between them. There were no shadows left in his expression, no crease of worry, no weight of someone else's expectations, just rest. By 10 a.m., the kettle was whistling and the sourdough was back on the table. Sarah sliced peaches and warmed honey on the stove. Corbin entered in drawstring pants and a shirt too old for public. He paused at the door, leaning against the frame. Do we have to go anywhere today? He asked. No. Do we want to? Sarah stirred the honey. No. Good, he said, kissing her cheek. Because I like our world better than theirs. Mid-morning, she checked the mail. A small box sat in the center of their mailbox, unmarked but familiar. She carried it in, sat on the floor, and opened it. Inside, a single pressed gardenia and a note folded with deliberate care. LS. You were always the light in the surveillance. Never doubt it. LC. Corbin glanced at the box, then back at her. You okay? She nodded. He just reminds me. What we survive shapes who we protect. He helped her up. They placed the gardenia in a glass frame, no words needed. It sat on the shelf between their wedding photo and a small plaque from the city, Small Business of the Year. They didn't talk about Vivian anymore. She hadn't called. Corbin hadn't written. The legal silence between them became permanent, not by revenge, by choice. Vivian had relocated to a gated beach property in Florida, alone. The last time her name appeared on anything public was an old donor list, quickly removed when the scandal almost leaked. Corbin's contacts erased it all quietly, but the shame lived in whispers, in seats left empty at events she once ruled. Sarah never wished her pain. She just no longer gave her power. That fall, Sarah's second store won a feature in a national home magazine. The interview asked how she survived the sudden shutdown 2 years prior. She smiled and said, "Sometimes the pruning isn't punishment, it's protection." They printed it on the opening page. Corbin's non-profit helped launch 8 startups in its first year. He no longer wore suits. He wore purpose. His old board called. They asked if he'd consider returning. He said he'd consider it if Sarah came as his business partner. They declined. He didn't. One night in December, it snowed hard. They lit a fire. Not because the house was cold, but because they liked the crackle. Corbin curled next to her on the couch, head in her lap. Sarah ran her fingers through his hair. "I used to think the worst thing that happened to me was being targeted," she said. He looked up. "But now I think the worst thing would have been never finding out who I was when I had nothing." "You had me," he said quietly. She nodded. "Yes. And that was everything." They didn't raise their voices. They didn't attend galas. They didn't post their anniversaries or throw dinner parties for status. But when neighbors needed help, they showed up. When the elderly tenant in their building struggled with groceries, Corbin carried the bags. When a young florist intern needed guidance, Sarah trained her. They lived small but with full presence. No stage, no spotlight, but deep roots. A year later, Sarah was invited to speak at a women's conference. The theme was power in quiet places. She almost declined, but Corbin said gently, "You don't have to perform. Just tell the truth." So she did. She told the crowd about strength that doesn't yell, about love that doesn't demand, about men like Lazarus, who do wrong, then choose right, and about women like Vivian, who hide control behind pearls and silence. She ended with one sentence. Sometimes the person they think is weakest is just the one who chose not to scream. When she stepped off stage, Corbin was waiting with a wrapped bouquet. It wasn't from a shop. It was from their garden. Sunflowers, lavender, ivy. I didn't know what matched your speech, he said, scratching the back of his neck. She smiled. You picked growth. That's perfect. That night, they fell asleep the same way they had a year ago. No noise, no fanfare. Just his arm over her hip, her hand on his. The lights dimmed. The city hummed outside. And inside that small, quiet space, Sarah finally felt everything she'd ever needed. Peace. If this story reminded you that the strongest people are often the quietest ones, if you've ever chosen love over pride or peace over noise, then this channel is made for you. Comment your favorite moment. Was it the gardenia, the courtroom reveal, or Sarah's final speech? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who believes in quiet strength. We tell true feeling stories here, where justice doesn't always scream, but it always speaks. Until next time, stay grounded, stay kind,